Hey guys, you know how there's supposed to be this thing called separation of church and state? Notably when it comes to our state-run public schools? Like, you guys know that, right? Like, there's supposed to be this, like, thing where religion is not, like, pushed on or, like, not necessarily enabled, but, like, encouraged in school. It shouldn't be demonized, it shouldn't be disallowed, but it shouldn't be in any way there as a form of, or as a mechanism to get kids into religion, especially in schools. That's what private Catholic schools are for, exactly. However, in red states, where the entirety of their ruling body believe that America is a Christian country and Christian values and beliefs should be taught to every kid that there is, and they shouldn't have a choice in the matter, because they don't believe there is a choice in the matter. Those states are doing everything in their power to dissolve the separation of church and state, notably in promoting and allowing private nonprofits to do some really weird stuff. Take a listen to this article. Prayer, Bible lessons, and a big red bus. How an Ohio group is bringing God to public school. Ohio Riz. Skibbity toilet. It was, mandatory. After a morning lesson on multiplying fractions, about half of the students in a 5th grade class at Etna Road Elementary School, public school by the way, packed up their work and headed to the campus library. The other half, all wearing matching red t-shirts, put on their coats, lined up single file, and boarded a red bus with the words LifeWise Academy painted on the side. While their classmates back at school browsed shelves of books, the children on the bus sang praise to Jesus. Quote, "There is no other name by which we must be saved." The students soon arrived at a church half a mile away, where for the next 30 minutes they would pray, read the Bible, and sing worship songs. I like how it's half a mile away and they don't even use this as an opportunity for the kids to, like, walk. Do you know how much as a kid I would have preferred for that to be a half-mile walk there and back from the school, where we all get to walk, like, with our friends on the sidewalk with, like, chaperones? We did that. Like, it's not too dangerous. We did that in Tampa, where, like, we had to get walked from the school to a daycare, like, aftercare thing that we had, like, when I was in elementary school. And, they had a teacher in front and a teacher in back, and they would walk us all the way down this quiet, like, sort of residential street that the school was on, up to the big main 6-lane road where we'd have to hit that button and wait for, like, 3 to 5 minutes for the green walks or the white walk sign. And then we'd have to, like, haul ass across this I think it might have been 8-lane, massive main road through Tampa, and then, like, get across the street, then walk along that street for, like, another quarter mile, which is where we would get to the corner, the massive intersection corner where the daycare was. Like, that's something we did in school, like, if we were in that daycare with that particular location. So I don't see why they couldn't have turned it into a walking thing, because we loved that walk as kids. Like, that was one of the things I looked forward to the most, because it was, like, school time, and also we get to talk to our friends for, like, a good amount of time. Like, that's the way I looked at it as a kid. But of course, car-dependent culture, get in the bus. The literal half-mile trip will be completed in 2 minutes at most in this vehicle, and you'll quickly be getting to the prayer. No talking allowed, only prayer. The students soon arrived at a church a half mile away, where for the next 30 minutes they would pray, read the Bible, and sing worship songs, activities that have become a routine part of their week thanks to an Ohio-based nonprofit on a mission to put God back in the public school day. What a horrible statement. On a mission to put God back in the public school day. LifeWise Academy is permitted under a pair of little-known decades-old U.S. Supreme Court rulings that allow for off-campus religious instruction during school hours. When LifeWise launched in 2018, the initial goal was to serve 25 schools by 2025, but it surpassed that long ago. By the start of this year, LifeWise has set up chapters in more than 300 schools in a dozen states, teaching 35,000 public school students weekly Bible lessons that are usually scheduled to coincide with lunch or non-core courses such as library, art, or gym class. Of course, they're taking away the gym, like the exercise part of the day for these kids, and it's the parents that are going to make them go. None of these kids, like, there are no kids that are like, oh, they're doing a Bible study? I want to go to Bible study. None of these kids are choosing to go to the Bible study, unless it's, like, really more entertaining than whatever they're doing at school during that period. LifeWise has won support from conservatives on the front lines of the new culture wars over LGBTQ inclusion, sexually explicit library books, and the role of racism in American history. But it also has a growing foothold in some progressive suburbs and cities, including deep blue Columbus, Ohio. Its explosive growth has been celebrated by Christian groups and parents who've long decried the removal of religion from America's classrooms, and denounced by those who believe there should be a hard line between religion and public education. Supporters say LifeWise, which teaches children character development through Bible lessons, complies with the separation of church and state. Public schools are not allowed to directly promote or fund the program, which is offered free to students whose parents sign permission slips. Quote, a lot of parents want to be able to say to their child, yeah, you're going to get science class, you're going to get math class, you're going to get English class, and you're going to have Bible class too, as if the Bible is as valid as those peer-reviewed real things like math, science, and the English language. Because this is important to us as a family, said LifeWise founder and former Ohio State Bucky's defensive lineman Joel Penton. But parents and activists who've mobilized against LifeWise say that busing students to nearby churches, where they sometimes collect prizes and eat candy, has made some non-Christian children feel left out or pressured to attend. Quote, whether it's happening on campus or not, this program is bringing religion into the school, said Demry Alonzo, an English tutor who works at several schools with LifeWise programs in Central Ohio. Quote, it's not fair to the kids of different religions. At a time when conservatives nationally are fighting what they portray as liberal indoctrination in schools, some parents and critics see the opposite playing out. Ah, yes, it's almost like the right literally accuses the left of doing the opposite of what they're doing at any given time. Are they making a massive push to, like, indoctrinate kids in schools? It's time to go harder than ever accusing the left of doing that, to divert attention from what they're doing. Opponents have also documented several instances of teachers and administrators promising LifeWise to students, either by allowing LifeWise volunteers to visit classrooms, hosting school-wide assemblies, or advertising the program in paperwork sent home to parents. Action that, according to some legal experts, could violate the First Amendment. Penton said LifeWise follows all laws and local policies and avoids hot-button partisan topics in its curriculum, which is designed to guide students through the entire Bible in 5 years. He said LifeWise receives very broad support from groups with a range of political views. Last summer, LifeWise's National Teacher Summit was sponsored by Patriot Mobile, a far-right Christian cell phone company that has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars supporting school board candidates promising to fight LGBTQ acceptance in schools. Dude, where are these, like, weird corporations that are on the left? I guess the most the right can say is Sweet Baby Inc. The difference is, left-wing grifters seem to want to, like, rip off and grift from big corporations and companies, if anything. Meanwhile, right-wing grifters want to grift off of their, like, grassroots fan base and audience until they're able to get, like, actual large-scale corporate funding. I wonder if there's a, here. God, they've got their own YouTube channel. They don't get a lot of views. And their videos aren't super interesting. NBC put out a thing called Christian Nationalism on the Rise. Could this be what they were responding to?
That Michael Peroutka, the Republican nominee for Maryland, Attorney General. It's a position he's taken since at least 2014 when he called the separation of church and state, quote, the great lie. And he added, there can be no separation of God from government because he, capital H there, created it.
Yeah, so something you guys have to understand fundamentally is that Christians cannot allow separation of church and state to stand. It's one of those issues where, like, Republicans just openly cannot, and Christians in general, cannot allow there to be separation of church and state, and they fundamentally, openly, as part of their religion, cannot allow there to be a choice, freedom, to believe what you want to believe. Because the fact is, they believe, they know, or say they know, God is real, and there can be no choice or separation of church from God, because he's real. There's no question of it. He made everything, and he must be your Lord. You must worship him. If you choose not to, you are evil. You are of the devil. You are the enemy of humanity and of all that is good, and you're not to be taken seriously. You're not like an enemy or an opponent to be dealt with in like a fair political fight. They literally think they're fighting for the supreme being that created everything, and that their eternal soul is on the line if they do not, like, make God's will known and forced upon everybody. Like, even if you're friends with a Christian and they're not, like, super weird about it, they do secretly believe you'll burn in hell forever if you don't accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior before you die. Most importantly, Lord. Like, you have to worship him, like, in the most literal of ways. Like one would worship a king, but even more so, a holy king. Yeah, they're fucking nut jobs. They're actually fucking nut jobs. Do they have a segment on LifeWire? What are they called?
This is not about biology. It's about intelligence. It's about dignity. It's about who you...
Apparently not. I wonder what they were responding to when they said that NBC mischaracterized them, because I have yet to find NBC talk about them specifically at all. I don't know. Maybe that's just them calling out NBC for being pro-separation of church and state. Really hard to say. I don't know. You have to understand, though, as much as I don't want to be the fedora-tipping atheist, the fedora-tipping Reddit atheists had a point, okay? Religion is just outright destructive to our society, and once religious people, and they often get to this point that I'm about to, set as the line, once they get to the point where they cannot stand that other people do not believe what they do anymore, they're a danger to society as a whole. Maybe not a huge danger, but in some way, shape, or form, they are a danger to society. A secular society is what everyone should strive for, because in a secular society, people can believe whatever they please religiously. There is no persecution. There is no religious state of power that decides what religions are okay and what aren't, or what is the standard religion. Everybody is equally free to worship what they want to worship, signify worship for what they want to worship. There is no set standard default religion, which America does not have a set standard default religion. Fundamentally, that is why the separation of church and state exists, but Christian conservatives and Christian nationalists are desperate to push the idea that the separation of church and state doesn't exist, that it's made up, and that the founding fathers were Christians, and that they believe that this is a white Christian country. Have you guys ever heard of the Quiverfuls? This kind of reminds me of that. This is a channel called Quiverful Documentary. Alright, maybe the opening of this documentary explains what the Quiverfuls are all about. I wonder if it's pro or against the movement/cult. It is a sect of Christianity popular in America and Canada.
Psalm 127, a song of degrees for Solomon.
I think pro.
Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it.
Spoilers, the arrows are sperm. You got it, Heavy Gretel. To be fair, my sperm is also somewhat arrow-like in its velocity and trajectory. Oftentimes.
Except
what
the
doing
Lord
Kegels
keeps
does.
the city.
You got to do Kegels, Chad. If you're not doing them Kegels, you're not gonna have like World War I artillery cannon loads that can like arc across the sky and knock a window out of the frame. I had to introduce some ungodly content to this segment. Okay, I'll explain the Quiverfuls to you guys because this isn't gonna get to it. This seems to be a pro Quiverful documentary allowed on YouTube for some reason for the last 5 years. They don't care. Oh, YouTube sucks. Okay, that aside, the idea is that every man has a responsibility to find a wife, maybe more than one wife, and impregnate her as much and as frequently as possible so that she will have as many kids as possible. Ideally sons, ideally a lot of sons. It's a breeding kink thing. And then those sons are to be trained like soldiers because they are soldiers for God. They are arrows in God's quiver. And so you must have a quiver full of children who are all to be warriors for God. And a lot of these people, they make like militia groups and whatnot. Christian Vice copyrights the shit out of you. What about Frontline PBS? Like, you gotta understand, the most radical of these people are doing shit like this.
Tonight, from Charlottesville to Pittsburgh.
Fowler stormed into this synagogue and said, "I just want to kill Jews."
An ongoing investigation.
He's identifying Jews as a threat to our people. What he means there is white people.
Of
Adam
violent
Moffat.
neo-Nazis.
What do you think was going on in this house?
They were making bombs.
Were they specific in their plans? Power lines, nuclear reactors, synagogues. They want to go forth right.
Through interviews with insiders.
These are like the big deal Nazi terror groups that are trying to plan the day of the rope. Like the day that they like knock out all the power plants, power stations, the lights go out, and in the darkness they roll into the cities fully armed in great numbers and start wiping out all the minorities, the gays, the people who dared to support them. These are the people who want to do that they are getting like the scoop on here.
Frontline and ProPublica reporter A.C. Thompson uncover the movement's methods.
They are actively recruiting military members. Does that surprise you?
And expose their hate.
Make America great again. In order to make America great again, you'd have to make America white again.
So, the fact is, if they're going to do this, they can't be a bunch of geriatric fucks leading a militia where they bring about the day of the rope. They need young blood. They need young blood. And for a generation that is just more progressive than ever, and a following generation with Gen Alpha that is just going to be even more progressive by all metrics, the Republicans are scared. American Christian nationalists are scared. They want to dissolve the separation of church and state because they need to push religion on these kids young as possible, so they'll be susceptible to conservative ideology, and they can do something to prolong the lifespan of the Republican establishment in America. They're desperate to do so, and their main tool to try to achieve this is going to be religion.